actually hearing the sun vibration. Sound of the sun. When anything material moves, waves travel through it, and the same thing happens inside the sun. And these waves are traveling, bouncing around inside the sun. And if your eyes were sensitive enough, you actually could see this giggle. But what scientists have done is they've taken the giggle and turned into a sound that we can hear with our own ears. The sun is vibrating lots of different frequencies. And one of the things that pretty cool about that is we can use those vibration in the sun to look what inside. We don't have a straightforward ways to look inside the sun. It means we don't have a microscope to zoom inside the sun, so using a star or the sun's natural vibrations allow us to see inside of it. And we can see huge rivers of solar materials flowing around. We are finally starting to understand the layers of the sun and the complexity. It's really cool because motion inside the sun are in fact what generates magnetic fields, and those magnetic fields float up to the surface and give us sunspots, and those sunspots give us solar flares and coronal mass ejection. This whole thing we call space weather. So all of these things are connected. That simply sound is giving us a proof inside of a star. Solar storms set to hit Earth today can lead to global power failure. The massive solar storm, which is moving towards the Earth at a speed of 1.6 million kilometers per hour, is expected to hit the Earth today, due to which there may be a power failure around the globe according to spaceweather.com. Due to this wind, speeds could reach 500 km per second, triggering a geomagnetic storm and high-latitude auroras. The solar wind is coming. A high-speed stream of solar wind is expected to hit Earth's magnetic field, flowing from an equatorial hole in the sun's atmosphere. Wind speeds could top 500 km per second. Full-fledged geomagnetic storms are unlikely, but lesser geomagnetic unrest could spark high-latitude auroras. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration has reportedly classified the solar storm as G-1 or minor. The solar flare expected to hit satellites operating in the Earth's upper atmosphere, which might impact GPS navigation, mobile phone signals, and satellite TV. The flares also have the potential of affecting power grids in some parts of the world. So, what is a geomagnetic storm? A geomagnetic storm, a major disturbance of Earth's magnetosphere, which occurs when there is a very efficient exchange of energy from the solar wind into the space environment surrounding Earth. It's known as a geomagnetic storm. The storm is the result of major changes in the currents, plasmas produced by solar wind, as per the NOAA. The most powerful geomagnetic storm ever recorded resulted in the 1859 Carrington event, when telegraph lines electrified, zapping operators and setting offices ablaze in North America and Europe. To create a geomagnetic storm, a solar wind has to sustain high speeds for a long period of time, which transfers the energy of the wind into Earth's magnetic field. The first and largest storms that result from these situations are associated with solar coronal mass ejection, where billions of tons of plasma from the sun are hurtled towards planets that also reach Earth. While coronal mass ejection take days to arrive at Earth, some have been observed to arrive within 15 to 18 hours of being ejected from the sun. According to the spaceweather.com, this solar storm originated in the sun's atmosphere, due to which a region of space dominated by the magnetic field can be greatly affected. Due to the storm, a warning has been issued by the scientists. It asks people to avoid air travel if not necessary, as satellite signals may be disrupted. Its effects can also be seen in flights, radio signals, communication, and weather. How solar storm can cause damage. According to the information, the solar storm may hit the Earth's outer atmosphere, which will directly affect satellites. This will affect the phones, signals, satellite TVs, and GPS navigation, interfering with them, while also threatening to cause currents in the power line. And however, the Earth's magnetic field acts as a protective shield against it, so the chances of this happening are negligible. Did you know that Earth has faced a solar storm before? Earlier in the year 1989, due to the solar storm, there was a power outage in Quebec City of Canada for 12 hours. During that time, lakhs of people had to face difficulties at the same time. In that year, 1859, there was a geomagnetic storm also, which destroyed the telegraph network in Europe and America. These solar winds bring radiation that penetrates the ionosphere and the other upper levels of the Earth's atmosphere. More people may be familiar with the phenomena known as auroras or northern lights caused by these events. These sorts are not unusual, as the northern hemisphere moves into the warmer months of the year, and luckily the massive solar waves are not expected to cause any significant issues. And how solar storm impact human health. And solar storm could generate radiation that are dangerous to people and can cause organ damage, radiation sickness, and cancer if they are exposed to them. Solar flares pose no major harm to humans on the ground, according to the most specialists. Auroras caused by geomagnetic storm usually area only visible closer to the poles. According to the Associated Press, the Earth is in the middle of an 11-year cycle that will reach its peak in 2025. As we get closer to the ends, larger storms could begin to occur. So, what was the most powerful geomagnetic storm recorded? The largest geomagnetic storm ever recorded occurred in 1859 and is known as the Carrington event. The storm, which lasted 2 days, created auroras able to be seen as far south as Colombia, Cuba, and Mexico. The telecommunication infrastructure of the time, including telegraph system in the United States and Europe, field and many operators tasked with sending messages reported being shocked. The total damage from this event would be around 2.6 trillion into this dollar. The 1980s also saw major storms, which in Canada led to major blackouts that forced the trading within the stock market to be halted. In 2013, researchers investigated the events and found that the U.S. energy system is vulnerable to this sorts of events. The report identified the corridor between Washington, D.C. and New York City as the most susceptible to power outages caused by geomagnetic storm. Biological effect of solar storm. A solar flare is a magnetic storm on the sun which appears to be an especially bright spot and gaseous surface eruption. Solar flares release vast amounts of high-energy particles and gases that are tremendously hot. They are ejected thousands of miles from the surface of the sun. Earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, hurricanes, tornadoes, and windstorms appear to occur after the intense solar activity on the sun. There is direct connection between the sun's solar storm and human biological effects. The conduit which facilitates the charged particles from the sun to human disturbance is very same conduit which stirs Earth's weather, the magnetic field. Animals and humans have a magnetic field which surrounds them in very same way. The magnetic field surrounds the Earth as a protector. Electromagnetic activity from the sun affects our electronic devices and human electromagnetic field. We are physically, mentally, and emotionally altered by electromagnetic charge from the sun. Our body can feel sleepy but also become high energized. Psychological effects of CMS or coronal mass ejection are typically short-lived and include headache, palpitation, mood swings, and feeling generally unwell. Chaotic or confused thinking and erratic behaviors also increased. Solar storms can drive our emotions and maximize it to both good and bad side. The point there is to be aware of it. Pineal gland in our brain is also affected by the electromagnetic activity, which causes the gland to produce excess melatonin, a hormone which can cause sleepiness, but it's also known that some people have opposite side effects, usually those that are aware of the effects.